first ever edition of 5-Star Wrestling Past and Present's Dynamite Review. This is Josh Cagle and TJ Page. This is the very first episode that we've ever recorded. I've never done this before, period. And
I've never done this either.
I mean, I watch a lot of these and, listen to podcasts, but never done one. So either this is going to be really, really horrible and we can just go back and look at it in 10 years and laugh, or one day someone's actually going to go back and be like, oh, that was the first episode of those guys who actually were successful and it sucked.
Or a combination of the two.
Or they might be like, that was surprisingly good and how somehow they got worse over time. But either way, as of now, our plan is to review Dynamite weekly. Unfortunately, we both have lives. Probably won't be putting out a review until like the weekend as opposed to like Thursday morning. But the plan is to do that and potentially add more stuff. So we'll see if that happens or if nothing happens.
And we'll venture outside of AEW, do other companies. It's not just one company based.
Right. So yeah, me and TJ, we've been watching wrestling for a while. AEW obviously has been around for 3 years. How long did we talk about how cool if there was something such as AEW for us to watch weekly? So, I mean, that pretty much says it. I'll be 40 later this year. I started watching wrestling in I think it was about Christmas of 1990. I was about 6, and I was at a bookstore, and I went and looked at the magazines, and I randomly saw this magazine that had an up-close picture, really up close to where all you could see was the side of his face. It was the Ultimate Warrior with this really intricate face paint, and it was an up close of his face, and I was drawn to it. I was like, what in the world is this? And WWF magazine, open it up. I don't know who the Ultimate Warrior is. I'm sure I'd heard of Hulk Hogan, and that was probably about it. And it's colorful and just comic book characters in real life and all that shit. So I very quickly realized that, because that was back when you'd go to Blockbuster and rent VHSs for the weekend, which was awesome and sad we don't do that anymore. But I realized that they had a wrestling section at the it wasn't even Blockbuster. It was a little place called Action Video, and I would go in there, and the dude who owned the place was a big wrestling fan, so he had a pretty good collection of one copy of each, basically all the shows, all the WWF pay-per-views up until that point, which if you think about it, wasn't really a whole lot. It was maybe 15, something like that. So I realized quickly that I could get those, and I rented SummerSlam 1990. I don't remember if he recommended it to me or what, but that was Ultimate Warrior defending against Rick Rude in the cage match in the main event. And it was just classic, late 80s, early 90s WWF. And dude, I was hooked.
So I started watching about the same age, 5 or 6. I was flipping through the TV one day, and on comes Nitro. So being from north of Atlanta, Nitro was a big thing around that area. And first wrestler I ever saw was Sting. So seeing the face paint, kind of what Josh alluded to, seeing the face paint, I was the perfect age to see as he's going into that Crow character. It made me just want to watch, and I was hooked from there. And throughout my childhood, my dad was a truck driver when I was growing up, over the road, gone a lot of nights. But it got to where no matter what, every single Monday, he was home so we could watch wrestling together. And as I got older, when I went off to college, that was still our thing. We would still talk about wrestling. We'd call each other, hey, are you watching? Or, hey, did you see last night? So it gave a bond at that point to where I actually got to take him to his first live wrestling show. And his first live wrestling show was WrestleMania in Atlanta. He'd never been to any other wrestling show. Probably won't go back to one, because how do you top Mania at that point?
That's a good point.
Because it was at the Georgia Dome, where we had grown up watching the Falcons game. So it was in a place familiar with us. Then it stuck, and I just became even bigger fan. I actually met Josh in 2014, and that's when I got turned on to a lot of non-American stuff, more a wider range, broadened my spectrum, and like you said, AEW came along and hooked. It was like the fandom started all over again. Just getting to see this company from a bet to a idea to a we're going to pay it ourselves to TV to the whole nine. So to sit back and watch it from the roots. So that's a little bit about how I got into wrestling.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I knew you and your dad watched. I didn't know y'all watched that much. That's pretty awesme. That's a good story for sure.
He kind of doesn't watch it really as much anymore. But it never left me.
Yeah. I know I had some time periods like when I was a kid where I stopped watching briefly. Like I know one around like 93, the WWF stuff was just not that great, and I just started getting into other stuff, and for a couple of years I didn't watch. Yeah, maybe about 3 years, and then I was flipping through the channels probably right about the same time that you were when you first discovered it, period, and I saw Crow Sting, and me and a friend of mine, so I was a little older, obviously, I was like 12 or 13, something like that, saw that, and I saw Hulk Hogan wearing black and was just like, what the fuck, and saw the NWO, and hadn't thought about wrestling in years, and just started watching it. And other than a couple of years in high school where I kind of got more interested in, getting drunk and stoned and going to partying and stuff, and didn't really watch anything but ECW, I've pretty much watched ever since. But, I definitely, I'm sure in our age range, I'm sure that's where the majority of fans come from, obviously, from 96, 97, 98, 99, when things just completely blew up, and a lot of people watched and don't watch anymore. But I mean, obviously, everybody knows if you're over the age of 30 or 25, everybody knows of those basic people. That's
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, I kind of had the same thing when WCW closed. So I actually just when I was growing up, I had to sneak to watch WW at the time F. I was being 6, 7, 8 during the Attitude Era.
I would not let my son watch that at all.
But I would go to my room and I would sneak it, because I want to watch it. But when WCW closed, I'm like, man, like, what am I going to watch? Then again, flipping through something, I found TNA. I was watching TNA for a while before any of the WWE or WCW guys came over. So I was seeing that younger ages. I remember the Bucks as Generation Me. Watching TNA through the years and went back to WWF or WWE, and kind of got to experience another two company, trying to watch both of them go. Then when they went head to head, I remember taking 2 TVs in the same living room. Yep. So that way I didn't have to pick and choose and flip. Nope, I'm watching both at the same time.
Yep. That didn't turn out so good, but it was pretty cool that night.
It was, Bret Hart returned to Raw, and you had...
Oh, no, I've had 2 TVs sitting next to each other, too. I remember very well, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we want to get into a little bit about Dynamite this week?
Yes. So, we're going to review some other stuff, and we'll pick some random stuff. I mean, there's so much good stuff to go over. Any of those time periods we talked about would have something good. But so, what we're focusing on is AEW Dynamite. And to give a frame of reference, the show was on, June 7th. And mm-hmm. I do not even remember where it was from, but I remember the crowd did seem a bit quiet during some of the show. Maybe that was just me, but...
See, on my end, that came off better than the week before.
Maybe I'm thinking of the week before, and then that I didn't actually write that down, so that I might edit that part out.
This week's was I actually enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the show overall. I just thought that at some points wasn't so sure about the crowd. Did you write down where the show was actually from?
I did
Not that
not.
it really makes a difference, but I was going to say for a frame of reference, besides the date, in wrestling news, Iron Sheik died, like 2 days ago or something like that.
Mhm.
So that's, very sad. That's the frame of reference that I have. Let's see where Dynamite was. Colorado. Bloomfield, Colorado. I would not have guessed that if I had guessed 500 cities in the United States. But okay, so the show starts, and again, I've got notes. I know mine might be a little more detailed than you. And they're chronological, so if I skip over something, then just jump right in and tell me. It's all good. I want to make sure that it's covered. So
Oh yeah.
first thing we got Orange Cassidy, international champion. I personally have really enjoyed his title reign, and I remember when I first saw him, probably about the time AEW opened, and my first thought was that dude is never going to be able to translate to being a real character, and I'm extremely happy that I was wrong. But yeah, the way the title reign's going, it's like every week he's got another body part taped up. He's falling apart. He's barely able to make it through the match, and he has to. In this match, he actually had to. What? He cheated. He rolled him up
Yeah.
and he
He
grabbed
held
the
the title.
tights, and he got him. I think I'm a big fan of Swerve too. I
Yes.
think that he is really good, and I don't know why they haven't done a match with Keith Lee yet, because that seems like that's just gone on forever without happening. But I think he would actually be a good candidate to beat Orange Cassidy, and I watching totally thought that that was a possibility. Obviously he's going to lose eventually. Swerve would have been as good a candidate as anybody. What do you think?
Um, Kind of build on what you're saying. Orange Cassidy he has shocked me.
He's a genius.
He to go from it was a gimmick. I was like, there's no way. Like you said, this will not transcend, especially with who your typical AEW fans are.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to transcend. Um, I remember I thought a huge turning moment when it was. So I was like, you might be onto something. Is when Sting outside the ring when they had the exchange and Sting bought into the Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because nobody could believe that. At
Yeah.
67 years old, he's acting like that.
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
you could
okay.
tell he had that look on his face, like he was really enjoying himself too, like genuinely thought that this was something like, I can't believe I'm doing this, but it's awesome.
So I think that was a huge turning moment, but his title reign, man, I made a note. He is the straight up workhorse of that company.
Yeah.
It's, you don't know who he's going to face. You just know pretty much every week you're going to see him face somebody. And it's been great matches across the board, which is something to be said about him because in all these defenses, the one constant variable is he's involved. So that says a lot about him and being able to make things happen. Like you said, the taping. Another note I have was he never stops selling. You have all the tape, you have everything. The hand tape's still there because he uses his hand every time. It's even during the match, he hits a move, he'll grab his bag, he'll grab something before he goes for the pin. And so he's still selling, in this case, what Swerve did to him, even though he hit that big move. So it's the little things like that I started noticing with him.
Yeah, I mean, I like because he ran his hand into the barrier, or I'm sorry, the post or something, and so his hand's all messed up, and he couldn't do the orange punch. But at the same time, he also he would go for a pin, and he couldn't even grip his hands together and get a grip. Like that little stuff like that to me goes a very long way.
And Swerve does that same thing. I think he's underrated. You almost say underutilized.
Yeah.
He came in with big hype, but the music, the everything, the presentation, he got a title belt. I thought this would be. I'm with you. I thought this would be it.
I still think that he could potentially be the person and again, it would have to be a little ways now before he got another title shot to make it make sense. But I could still see him potentially being the person, because if not him, like, I'm not sure. It's not like that belt is going to be put on somebody like a Bryan Danielson or a Kenny Omega. It's got to be, it's a level below that. But
if they wanted, I had a thought of if they wanted to get a big pop, like a face-on-face style, make this a surprise, make it Hook.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be kind of different then. I mean, or I don't know if Hook was going out and having a big title match like that every week. I'm sure I mean, the matches would be pretty good, but that would be an incredible learning experience to where he would get much better.
That's an investment. That's an investment in the future.
Yeah.
Orange he's made the title legit. He's made it have merit. He's made it that. Now you can still let Hook defend it every week, which is going to do twofold: more exposure, and it's going to help him learn because he's still young.
Oh yeah, Hook, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Orange Cassidy is too, but I mean, yeah, no, Hook's like super young. I don't even, what is he, like 23 years old or something?
Right.
Or here,
Orange is like 40.
Oh, I thought he was like in his mid 30s.
Somewhere close.
I don't know. I'll look it up at some point.
But
he's definitely a lot older than Hook. I mean, I don't know how long he's been.
That's just my thought, because you want it to be somebody people already know, that the fans, and if you hear that music hit, they're going to go ballistic too.
Yeah. Or my other idea, and this might be way too obvious, but if he lost it to Pac at Wembley Stadium, I mean, I don't know if that would be, but I mean, considering that they've already fought over that belt, or well, Pac had it first, right? And then, yeah, what am I saying? He would be winning it back, so.
Which would be a great moment, yes, but having a new champion after all this time that hasn't had it. Because think about the TNT belt. They went back and forth with the same people, and it just feels like it's just an afterthought.
Yeah, it definitely drove it into the ground.
Mm-hmm. And we used to talk this way about that belt.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's true.
Yeah, I agree with the Orange. I agree with Swerve. But yeah, to me, Orange is a workhorse. He doesn't get all the credit he should, but he is out there each week and he's still just in the interviews. He lives the gimmick. It's awesome.
Yeah, what was it? The guy that he was asked at Double or Nothing, the guy was like, "Do you consider yourself to be one of the best wrestlers in the world?" And he goes, "No, not even close." I mean, that's perfect. I mean, if he had said anything else, it wouldn't have made sense. But as soon as he said that, I mean, how do you not love the man?
Mm-hmm. So after this, correct me if I'm wrong, but after this we had MJF and Cole.
Oh, well, actually, so right before that, as this match was over, I guess it's called the Mogul Embassy. I'm a little confused. I guess it was the Swerve joined up with the Embassy, and they're kind of like a double faction. They came out and started beating the shit out of Orange, and then lights went out and Darby and Sting showed up in the ring. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the second week in a row that they had done that. So clear, or didn't they already say they're doing an 8-man next week with Sting, Darby, Orange Cassidy, Keith Lee versus Swerve, Brian Cage, and maybe like 2 other of the Embassy people?
I did not see that.
I think I saw that, but I don't know for certain.
I could see it.
They announced a pretty big card for next week with also, well, we'll get into the rest. No, so we're coming up on what you're talking about. And to be honest, what you're talking about is probably the biggest takeaway for me from the show. So we'll probably talk about that.
Yep.
Before that, I just wanted to say the next thing they did was the Blackpool Combat Club match versus Best Friends and Rocky Romero. Which, I mean, any time there's a 6-man that has VCC dudes in it, I mean, it's always going to be good. I mean, at the very least, it's going to be good. But I thought it was pretty interesting. One, Danielson did really good on commentary. I know he's done a fair amount of it before, but he seems so much more important since, if that makes sense, since he made obviously he's going to have the match with Okada, but that interview he did on Dominion, which was like a taped interview he did out in the desert or something, and he sent in was really good, and it was like dead serious. And like while he was doing this commentary, he was dead serious, and like not that he doesn't always seem important, but it seems like sometimes he's just doing stuff where he's just having fun doing whatever. But it's like now he's doing something truly important, and like I think this match is going to be extremely important in like the grand scheme of things. So,
yeah, and I know Danielson on commentary. One thing I like, he's talking about Yuta, and he's driving home the fact that we got this guy who wasn't polished, and now look at him. He's hitting, you could say the wrestling purist, he'll make comments of, why didn't he go for a cover? Why didn't he go for a cover? Talking about best friends. Little things like that to where everybody has complaints about AEW, some of the things that happens. We do too. And so it's almost like he's saying, like, look, I see it too. It's not just you. So it's kind of like blurring that fourth wall right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah, I mean, and I did like that, and I actually didn't catch this when I first saw it. It was pointed out to me by somebody else, but because I think the match ended when Moxley choked out Rocky Romero, but at the same time, Yuta's doing the elbows down on Chuck Taylor, who is the one who trained him and brought him into the Best Friends originally, and Yuta was just like mercilessly beating the shit out of him for an unnecessarily long amount of time. Like,
well, Danielson's comment about that was perfect. He said they attacked us before the bell. Yuta's not stopping after the bell.
Hey, no, and hey, that actually makes perfect sense. It's just they're so vicious that I mean, the thing that Wheeler Yuta was actually in the Best Friends at one point is actually really funny because now, I mean, obviously he's gotten way more out of this. Not that Danielson and the other guys haven't, but he's gotten way more out of this than anybody because now, hell, he could practically main event a pay-per-view for AEW at this point. He's high enough up the card. He pinned Kenny Omega in the last shows, or the last Double or Nothing, so
and
in a way, he kind of did.
That's an accomplishment that not everybody can say.
And they clearly went out of their way to put him over in that match, too. I know that's a few weeks ago, and that's not what we're reviewing, but just Wheeler Yuta is on a great trajectory. Let's just put it that way.
That pinning Omega is going to lead to, I mean, this new side of him because it's like a confidence-building character.
Yeah. And, I mean, Moxley, I mean...
Hey, he did not bleed this week.
Oh, my God, you're right. He did at Dominion, so technically he did this week, just not on Dynamite. He did it at Dominion over the weekend because Ishii gave him a headbutt, like a legit... like forehead-to-forehead headbutt and split him open, and I'm pretty sure he did not bleed, and it was pretty nasty.
But at Dynamite, he did not bleed on TV.
That's the first time that's happened in a while, but for multiple reasons, I mean, Jon Moxley is in the category of wrestler for me who can do no wrong, so, I mean, some reason, personal, and some, obviously, he's just awesome.
When it comes to AEW, it's finding a way. He finds a way to hit a different niche of people who like the blood and violence. Well, there you go. You can still find that on your TV.
But at the same time, he can actually be a really good wrestler when he wants to. I actually really love the term they've come up with what is it, Death Jitsu? That's his style. Like he's a crazy deathmatch wrestler who actually trains in technical wrestling and can like choke you out. I mean, that's like one of the.
Oh, they actually made a shirt for him about it too.
Hey, I would potentially wear that shirt, so there you go.
Yeah, I'm still all on board with the BCC.
I mean everything they do is awesome.
And what it does, it also Claudio's not the best on the microphone, and what this does is allows him to look like just because I mean he's a huge guy, especially compared to the others.
So he's like 6'5" or something.
But it makes him look like more of a monster, like the silent, deadly assassin. He doesn't have to talk, and he's going to be a badass.
Yeah. No, I agree. He could... The next step would be if he... And this wouldn't fit with the gimmick, but if he was wearing the old Hitman outfit that he used to wear, the suit and stuff that he... Or the James Bond type, but that wouldn't really fit with what they're doing. Although that would be cool for, like, the silent killer type. But, yeah, I mean, that was... I mean, it was... kind of a squash. It was a good match. It felt like more than anything, it pushed Danielson and Okada.
But they're gonna leading up to the next match that them and the Elite have. They're gonna let them win, build them both up.
So then, right after the match, they did the interview in the back with Hangman and the Bucks, and they challenged them. I think the funny line I got from that was the Bucks. They were like, "Oh yeah, we just saw the BCC match. It was really good." And Paige said, "Oh, I didn't hear it. No, what did he say? I didn't see it, but it sounded good."
Mm-hmm.
So that, a 6-man next week. That's, like I said, there's actually like 5 really good matches announced for Dynamite next week. It's like one of the more beefed up cards that they've done in a while.
Oh, this is the season they have to beef up. Everything has to be must watch because they got a lot of shows to sell.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, obviously we'll be talking a lot more about All In and All Out and Forbidden Door, especially over the next few months because, yeah, I mean, Forbidden Door right now is set up to be absolutely incredible. Even if it just had those 2 matches, like, I'd gladly pay $50 to watch that and not even think twice about it. So, yeah, okay. Then we are into the MJF Cole segment. So I know you told me a couple days ago how much you enjoyed that. And
yes,
it was. I'll share my thoughts. You tell me, what was it that you enjoyed about it the most?
MJF has somebody who can go with him on the mic. After the Pillars angle, MJF stood out on the microphone. We all knew he would during that. Darby did the best out of the other 3, in my opinion, but he has somebody that can talk with him. Cole, it's just the presence. It's almost like an aura he has. So it was perfect. To me, the way they did it, MJF built up Cole. He's telling you why he's a worthy adversary, why he should be able to challenge. Then the heel came out of then going for the digs and saying, like, this isn't the version I imagined. So it's like he built him up, which you have to do. So people, if it's your first time watching the show, you see the champ and he's telling you why this guy's good. There you go. You instantly believe Adam Cole should be facing MJF. The fact that Cole, he can talk back. I liked how there really wasn't an interruption. Like when MJF was talking, Cole just let him get all his zingers out. I was surprised that Britt was brought up this early, knowing that was the focal point of the Jericho feud. So that almost seemed a little repetitive to his previous feud. But when Cole got on the mic, he gave all his zingers. He went right back at MJF. The comment that got me was the piss test. I mean, that one got me. But I remember telling you, I actually like the fact MJF referenced the WWE stuff because they're saying this is his history. We're not going to act like he didn't work for this company. It's kind of like what WWE does to Cody. Never says anything about it. It's just he was gone. He's back. But here MJF's saying, acknowledging his WWE time, brings up Vince by name. He says, yeah, that other company says down in Florida, but still, everybody knows what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So I really, in those ways, I think mentioning the WWE is not bad because you're acknowledging history. And so those were the shots I liked, but in the manager line, the shaving your head, everything that was internet rumors, like just bringing it up, it shows to me why MJF is so good on the mic. He knows what buttons to hit or knows how to get the reactions.
Oh yeah, I mean, part of his character is that he's like an internet troll come to life.
Yep.
He knows all of the backstage rumors and will just say the worst shit he possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
No, so okay, yeah, I very much enjoyed this. When it started, I kind of was expecting something slightly different because MJF, I knew what I was going to get, and it was awesome. And he actually, the way you're saying, he propped up Adam Cole like way more than I actually expected him to. But I mean, he does it in such a way that it builds him up to where yeah, then he eventually shits on him, of course. But I mean, he builds him up to make him important. And I know who said the line from like 20 years ago. It was like a Ric Flair line or something, talking about like when you're cutting a promo on somebody, you never want to tear somebody down completely, because then it's like if you beat them, you just beat some piece of shit. But if you lose, you just lost to somebody who sucks. So you build them up.
I heard Bully Ray say that on Busted Open one day.
I mean, yeah, it's not like that's like an uncommon thing to say, but I think MJF did it like perfectly. Like, could not have done it better. And so for the last few weeks, I haven't watched the All Access show or the backstage show they have. I know a lot of it was about Adam Cole, and I know obviously it's him coming back from his concussion. It's a babyface story. I like heel Adam Cole a lot better than babyface Adam Cole. And you said that the stuff with Britt was slightly repetitive. I didn't think about it like that, which you're right, it is. But I just think that the ending of the feud with Jericho was kind of flat for me. And I thought, while it was good just because Cole and Jericho can't create something that was bad, but it wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. Maybe that's a good way to put it. And I mean, Cole clearly won the 2 matches, so it makes sense that he would get into the world title picture. But I thought we were going to have babyface Adam Cole, and I was like, MJF is going to absolutely rip him to pieces, and this is going to be a massacre. But when he kind of reverted back to heel Adam Cole, but he's talking to the biggest piece of shit in the world, so he's going to be a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, now this is going to work. So as MJF was talking, was expecting for it to be very one-sided, and was very happy to see that that wasn't the case. I still think MJF bested him. That's just because I don't think anybody, with the exception of potentially Punk, could take MJF. Cole did very, very, very well and made it to where I assumed coming out of that would be the title match for Forbidden Door. I mean, show's only a few weeks away, and I think they announced that they're doing an eliminator match between them on Dynamite next week, and I could totally see Adam Cole winning that and getting the shot. And then losing, but I mean, at least getting the shot.
Right. That, or I just see some kind of weird, funky finish or some heel thing MJF claims he can't wrestle. Something just to prolong it.
Yeah, and I would be okay with that because that fits with what he does. MJF literally goes out of his way not to wrestle, but when he does, it's actually really good. So, no, I thought that was. I was wondering coming into the show, because MJF was clearly done with the pillar stuff. I was wondering whether they were going to have some like low-level person come in for a match like just a couple weeks from now, or if MJF was actually going to get involved with somebody from New Japan for Forbidden Door. So this is good. My other thought was that potentially, well, I thought Hangman. I'm not really sure why, but I think that eventually we're going to get a big Hangman MJF feud, since they're two of the originals anyway. So I think that'll happen at some point. So then the next segment was a backstage segment, and the reason I wrote this down is because I think these segments and this whole angle has been horrible. The stuff with the Hardy Boys and Ethan Page, and anytime there's a match where somebody's contract or whatever it is on the line, I just immediately tune it out. And I mean, I love the Hardy Boys. I've obviously watched them for a long time. They're from like just down the road from where I live and grew up, but I mean, not good stuff.
No,
and Ethan Page is really good too. It's like a bunch of people who are good in these shitty roles doing just a story that I want to be over.
I don't even write anything down about it because
I literally only wrote it down because I wanted to point out that I didn't care for it, because I didn't want it to look like, I mean, that we're just, everything is great and we love everything. Yes, we're fans of AEW, but if something sucks, it's okay to say this really sucked balls, because when something's good, we'll make sure to say that too.
Wonder part of it is they're trying to just limit what they do to Jeff until he proves he can stay.
No, and he shouldn't be all of a sudden in some important thing, a year from now. And I mean, his body's got to be falling apart no matter what. But I mean, yeah, from like a mental standpoint, or I'm hoping that he's sober. I'm pretty sure that he is. That's what I saw from Matt Hardy. I mean, that's obviously way more important. So if that means he just needs to do some very menial stuff and have some basic matches from time to time, then that is perfectly okay with me.
Yep.
So after that, we had another. It was I don't even LFI the what are they, Los Facción Ingobernables, with I believe it was Preston Vance and Dralistico against Hook and Jungle Boy. The main thing I can remember from this match was that Preston Vance got busted open and bled a lot, and it looked like an accident.
I love that before this match started, it was Texas Tornado style, because all the tag matches, you just might as well throw the rules out the window because they're not going to enforce it.
In most cases, yes.
So at least in this case, it's understood why the shenanigans are happening. It's legal. Yeah. That was my first takeaway. It was properly named because it was going to be not a straight tag match.
Yeah, no, I agree, because one of my biggest problems with AEW has been the refereeing, or at least the booking of the refereeing. They're great referees who are made to look like complete fucking morons who can't see anything, or, yeah, I don't understand why they do that. So, yeah, if they're going to do that kind of a match, then call it a tornado match, and hey, I'm cool. Do whatever you want at that point. Just go nuts.
It's like they just adopted basically the PWG style tag and used it for everything. Man, that's not tag. Like, there's rules you're supposed to go by.
Yeah.
Yeah, to your point, Vance, he bled buckets.
Yeah, I didn't even see exactly what happened to cause it, but...
So, the biggest note I had on this match, this was Hook's longest match, because it wasn't tagging, so he didn't get the rest.
I didn't think about that.
So it was a good way to test the cardio in the ring, but him not be the focal point on camera, because they would have to pan over to Jungle Boy too, so it could hide if there was an issue with being active that long, which I don't think there was, but you just never know when it's your first long one like that.
Yeah, no, that did not cross my mind, but that is a very good point. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about, and I like Hook, and I think that Hook is continuing to get better and is going to end up very good. It felt kind of like a little bit of a drop-off for Jungle Boy coming off of being in the big four-way, which I know he wasn't, obviously he wasn't supposed to be the focal point of, or certainly not win, but it did seem kind of like a bit of a drop-off. But, I mean, if him and Hook get into like the tag title picture or something, then I think that would totally, revitalize him. I really like Jungle Boy. I just think that...
I just wonder if that combo ends if we get heel Hook.
I mean, that's possible, but I feel like eventually, because, I mean, think about it, ever since, like literally since AEW started, Jungle Boy's gimmick, for lack of a better term, is that he's a good dude and he has trouble having that killer instinct to really go in and fuck somebody up. I mean, how many times has that been the storyline? He finally did it to Christian.
It was in the Pillars.
Yeah, he did it there. He didn't want to hit him with the belt, and he's got a conscience.
So do we get heel Jungle Boy where he permanently drops the Jungle Boy and just now permanently Jack Perry?
I think that could probably still be another year away, but I think, I mean, part of expanding your career and is, eventually switching it up from heel to face or face to heel or whatever, unless you're like
John Cena.
Yeah, or like Ricky Steamboat and you're like the perfect baby face or something. But yeah, I mean, at some point you would think with all of that foreshadowing, they've got years of foreshadowing to where when he turned, it's like, yeah, they've literally been leading to this for years because it's been his gimmick the whole time. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope that Hook and Jungle Boy aren't just put together so that one of them can turn on the other in the near future. I mean, Tony Khan doesn't really book that way. That's more of a WWE thing, I guess. But I would assume at some point something like that would happen. And I mean, what they're put together because they're both like young heartthrob dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
They're
whoever
gonna
turns heel is gonna have to grow a beard.
And so they're the ones who bring the females to the audience.
Yeah, no, it's like, hey, it's like the Hardy Boys 25 years ago.
But I did enjoy the match. But like I said, my biggest takeaway, Hook got to extend his length in the ring.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that because I did not even think about that. And I think that, I mean, obviously he's an extremely long-term project, but I think that's good. And I think
his table spot was I thought he protected Vance really well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I'm sure, I mean, Vance is a pretty big dude too. So that's.
And you hadn't seen Hook use a table like that, especially coming from the apron down to the floor.
Yeah, no, I that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I guess usually it's just if you did it, it was like propped up against something, like in the corner or, the guardrail or whatever.
And this was more of you could say, the more dangerous moves that he has done to somebody.
I mean, it seems like he just started wrestling a couple of weeks ago, but I think back, it was a year and a half ago, the last time I was at a Dynamite, and he had a singles match on it, and he's been wrestling for like a good 2 years now, at least. So I mean,
but see, I love the slow build of him because
I agree.
Because even though he's young, by not running him out there all the time, that's thinking of longevity because his body's not taking all the bumps that a normal 22-year-olds would.
Yeah, I mean, and he's learning by working with people who have a lot more experience. I know they don't do a whole lot of house shows, but what is it, the house parties or house rules or whatever they do every now and then. I think on each one of those, he does a singles match with some veteran who, and he goes 10 minutes or something like that. So, I mean, that's going to get him where he needs to be. He's extremely young, like you said. Is he really only 22 years old?
Oh, he's young.
Holy crap. That makes me feel really old.
So, after that tag match, wasn't it Tony's big announcement?
Yes, it was. And I'm surprised that we've gotten this far into the show without even bringing up CM Punk.
So the big announcement that the Collision main event is Punk and FTR versus Juice, Jay White, and Samoa Joe. That one surprised me. Yeah, I did not see Joe with Bullet Club Gold like that.
Yeah, I don't quite understand what the Bullet Club Gold stuff is, but I assume, Joe and Punk, that's an extremely famous feud, so I don't know if he was put in there for that, or, I don't know.
Maybe to showcase, just something to showcase Joe in.
I feel like, Joe hasn't really done a whole lot lately, so maybe he's going to be one of the people that is mostly on Collision. Like, didn't they announce that Miro is re-debuting on Collision? So it's like that's going to be a show for him. So if I obviously this is a little off topic, but whatever kind of brand split they do, whether it's just like some people and then other people are kind of interchangeable, or if it's like a genuinely hard brand split, they easily have more than enough people to have 2 or 3 rosters, so that's not a problem. But it is interesting. Like, so what, is Andrade going to come back for Collision too? All the people that...
Yes, that he was on the press release.
Really?
Thunder Rosa too.
So literally, it's like anybody who had some kind of issue, it's like, all right, we're bringing everybody back on the other show. It's very, very interesting. I feel that there's going to be a lot more to that comes out eventually.
The other thing with this announcement, I'll be honest, I'm tired of these announcements. I'm over it. Like, it was cool for a couple weeks.
You mean when part of the show lineup is Tony makes a big announcement?
Yes. I'm over it.
You're completely right that it's been done to death, but I will say, at least when he says that, it actually usually is a pretty big announcement. If he was coming out and just like, big announcement, we're having a TNT title match next week, it's like, okay, but no, at least he actually usually makes some half-decent announcements. But you're right, he's done it about 3 out of the last 4 weeks.
And all about the same event. So I was just like, let's just have a break from these. So, because it's starting to lose its value. It used to be almost like pull a number. It's really not doing that. Like, it doesn't have that shock value now.
Yeah, no, obviously anything that you continue to do over and over again isn't going to, it's like the boy who cried wolf, I guess. So, all right. So about what the actual announcement was, I find it very interesting that obviously last time Punk came in, he'd been gone for 7 or 8 years. So totally different situation, but they simply made a comment, or Darby made a comment on a throwaway interview at a show that I was actually at in Charlotte, an episode of Dynamite where he said something about wrestling the best in the world. And then they, that was when it became known that Punk was coming back. But they never announced anything, right? So here, they booked the United Center. So if that's not obvious enough, they still haven't sold all the tickets. Then they announced Punk. And, I mean, as far as I know, they still haven't sold all the tickets. So then they even announced that he's got a match. It's like they've gone in the opposite direction and they've announced everything. And I think it's because there's a lot of people that still are on the fence about whether or not they actually want to see him back or not.
I think they had to do it this way, though. I've been waiting, and I've thought about this. The first time they kept it the worst kept secret. If you
on
did
purpose,
that again,
obviously.
But if you did that again, it's just a repeat. So
if they'd done the same thing, it would have been stupid. Yeah, surely.
You've already done it. You just need to announce it, get it out there. So that way it's different. And at this point, they got to start the show with him coming out talking, because otherwise that crowd's going to hijack everything all night.
Yeah, I guess it's in Chicago, so obviously the people are going to come to see Punk. Because I think he could probably murder a small dog and still be in Chicago. But
that's his town.
Yeah, that's his town. Like, I know how much we were sucked into when Punk came back last time, to where it was like beyond cool. It was pretty awesome, and
it was a big deal.
It was a big deal, especially for us. And I think, all right, so small audio video error on my part there, but that got edited out, so nobody knows. I was talking about CM Punk. So when Punk came back the first time, like we said, it was a big deal. I remember, everybody remembers the dude in the crowd who was sobbing, and I certainly didn't feel quite like that, but I understand that it was a big deal, and it was something that I did never expect to see. And obviously, yeah, I think you felt the same.
We talked about it for a long time after. I don't know how many times I went back. Hell, you were there after he returned. Like a month later, I got married, and I used his music to make my own entrance to my own wedding.
There you go. That speaks volumes.
It's, I was trying to figure out who to use, and then that happened. I was like,
who do you not use in that case?
So that's how big of a deal it was for us.
I'm giving him a chance. I had do what?
You were let down.
Oh man, to an incredible degree. Just disappointment. I can't even. Yeah, that would be an understatement. So I'm hoping that he comes out and at least admits some kind of fault. And I'm not saying he needs to sit there and get down on his hands and knees and apologize, but
but the apology needs to be just as loud as the disrespect.
Which is perfectly said. Yeah. So.
And that's his own words.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not exactly what's going to happen. I think if there's much of anything, it will be a lot lighter than that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll come out and be like, "Look, I was an idiot. I'm sorry. I take all the blame." And if that happens, hey, I forgive and forget at that point. But I think the reason I was so disappointed was, we started out the show by talking about how we had wanted something like AEW to come around for years. And here we've got it. We're completely spoiled by it. And here he is, basically shitting on it in, his interview, and basically saying, hey, this guy over here owns it, and I don't even give a shit if he's sitting here, but everything here that they've done sucks unless it was done by me. It was seriously? Obviously we could talk forever about that stupid shit from from All Out. But I mean, yeah, disappointment and letdown was the way it was for me. But I'm willing to give him a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's really great as a wrestler, whether you're a big fan of him or not. So, and he's a huge draw. And if they can somehow do him versus him versus Kenny Omega or something at Wembley, I mean,
If they don't go down that route, then they're all idiots.
I think because after everything happened, probably until a few weeks ago, I was pretty positive that Punk was never going to come back and there was no chance whatsoever. So I was shocked when he came back, period. And I assumed that never comes back. They never cross paths again. Now that they're back in the company, I don't see how there's any way they can't do that eventually. It might be another year before they do it.
I would hate for it to take that long because then it's not as fresh, though.
I agree that they should. If you jumped right into it, that would be what you want to do. But, like, I don't know. Obviously, if you're going to be a wrestler, you have to have a pretty big ego. But in this, I think the egos involved in this, it's like, I don't even know I bet they haven't even talked to each other yet. I'm saying that's total speculation. Obviously, I have no idea. But
I would rather see that sooner than later. I say because it's fresh, it's real, it's their chance to blur reality and fiction. And anytime you can, they start wrestling, you start looking like, I know this is scripted, but damn, that looked like he hit him for real.
Yeah, that's what they said. I mean, Harley Race or somebody used to say back in the day, when people come to shows, they know that it's not real except for what I'm doing. So
and I just take it back to, I've heard people say, if Hardy and Edge and if Kurt and Jeff Jarrett can still do business, why can't these guys do business? Because what happened with them?
It will be major business. Yeah, it wasn't like somebody fucked the other person's wife or anything.
And because what happened with the Elite and Punk is nowhere near like Kurt and Jeff. And they still did great business. Matt and Edge, they did great business. And I think it just, if they don't settle it to where they can at least be in the ring together, that's going to be the legacy.
Yeah, it would be, that would be awful. And it would have been one thing if Punk had never come back, it would have been like, oh, that would have been great, but there was no way. But if he comes back, they're in the same company for however amount of time, and then they don't do it, it would be 10 times worse.
Yep.
So they set up the match. I've been very intrigued by anything involving Samoa Joe and Punk. I think my biggest interest will be, obviously Punk's going to be a babyface in Chicago. I don't think they could go against that if they wanted to.
Nope.
I think there's going to be places where he is not anywhere near as popular. If he goes the route of he's a babyface in Chicago, but everywhere else he's a heel, and AEW does enough big shows in Chicago that he's still going to be a babyface pretty regularly.
Well, that's the same route they do with MJF. He's a heel everywhere except for Long Island.
Exactly, and obviously they do a lot less shows in Long Island than Chicago. I think they've done, 2? But they were both awesome because they played on that perfectly.
And
one of them was Punk got beat by MJF in Chicago. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I was about to say, and that wasn't, you're right.
But that'd be the same type of deal.
Same type of deal.
Like you said before, think of Brett. Brett was the super face in Canada, and in the States, he was hated.
Yeah, and Punk is a huge mark for Brett. Like I am too. So yeah, I would see something that would be something that he would probably be salivating to do, because when he wants to be a heel, he's incredible. He's one of the best that you can possibly be. So, Like I said, I'm totally willing to give him a chance. I just am going into this with lowered expectations. So, if it turns out good, then that's awesome. And if not, then that's okay too. At the very least, there will be some good matches.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was a pretty big announcement. And like you said, I kind of hope that we don't have another quote-unquote huge announcement from Tony again for the next few weeks. I did hear something about how, part of the reason this one got stretched so long was because they somehow didn't get the contract with Punk finalized for the show in time for the first week. Some weird hiccup like that, so he couldn't technically announce it, but still,
To me, that's all speculation and rumor. We don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea if that's true.
I'll take it with a grain of salt. They got it done. That's all we know.
That's all we know, and that's all that really matters, so. And yeah, I mean,
So I'm sure we'll be talking about Punk a lot and everything.
yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, that's why I said I was shocked that that was the first time we had brought him up, and I think we had been talking for like 40 minutes or something by that point. So
no, that's going to be a big thing moving forward as well. I think it's a good point to just now go to the next segment and start just keeping going down the show before we spend an hour talking about Punk and a match that's not even happened.
yeah, no, you're right. So I did some of the. We don't have a lot of show left. The next thing, we've got Konosuke Takeshita with Don Callis. I think he's awesome. I mean, both of them.
My big takeaway there, I love the no music because that is the most hated duo in that whole company.
Oh, yeah.
If you add music, you can't hear the crowd. And that no music is an old school deal. And I saw reports online where people were saying in the arena, you could not hear Don again. Like they could not hear him talking.
Oh, yeah.
So it's why take away from the heat?
No, I agree. I thought it was awesome. Anytime Don Callis cuts a promo, it's awesome. Anytime he does commentary, it's awesome. I mean, he's got that crazy spray tan. He looks like the biggest carny piece of shit motherfucker ever. And he's just, yeah, I mean, I love every second of it. But Takeshita is really good, and I think
he's amazing.
I think like he's going to have a match with Omega, and it's going to be. I don't think it's going to main event like a Wembley show or anything like that, but it's going to be a big deal, and it's going to be awesome. And I think because obviously Forbidden Doors coming up, obviously Takeshita is not in New Japan or anything, but considering the amount of buzz he has now and he's going to have when he gets back to Japan, I can't imagine he's going to either be like the top guy in Noah or he's going to go to New Japan and he's going to be a huge star.
The next Okada.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about him though is, if I'm not mistaken, he wanted to come back to America to specifically work for AEW.
That's what I read. Obviously we don't know any of that for sure, but I did read that, yes.
And he's got the All Elite graphic, so he is signed with AEW.
He's connected to Kenny Omega and the Bucks and everybody. Now Don Callis, he is like moving up towards being like a top guy in AEW, and I would not have expected. I knew he was a very good wrestler. There was I don't think anybody ever questioned that, but clearly Tony Khan is a big fan of him because he probably paid up to get him. I'm assuming he moved to the United States and everything.
Well, remember he went against Mox, Hangman. He's went against all these guys.
He earned the role long before he actually got it. But yeah, so those matches were awesome. But now he's actually the match with Claudio. Remember that on what was it, like a Battle of the Belts or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think Takeshita. I do like when you've got a new big heel with a really awful manager in a Don Callis, where the whole segment is the manager cuts a 5-minute promo and the heat is like through the roof, and then the match is just like a minute of the guy basically killing somebody. It was probably a little longer than that, but you get what I'm saying. I think that's a really good combination, and you can't be able to build a heel up any better than doing that.
Man, Callis being his mouthpiece works perfect.
Yeah, Callis is. I've actually heard some people say that they don't like Don Callis in AEW, and I can't imagine why.
That means he's doing his job.
Yeah, well, you're right. That's what I'm saying. I enjoy watching him do his job, so I do like watching him there. But I guess you're right.
If you're gonna be an effective heel, you need people to not like you to whatever degree, and to me, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree, and he's an old school dude, so he would probably take that as a major compliment.
Mm-hmm. Then after that, wasn't it the main event?
Well, so there was the quick segment in the back I wrote down where Christian revealed that Brock Anderson had gotten the shit beaten out of him by Luchasaurus. So
still going with the Wardlow, Christian, Luchasaurus still.
Yeah, it's okay, I guess. I thought Wardlow got over really good at Double or Nothing and looked really good in that ladder match, especially when he did that spot where he tried to leapfrog onto the ladder and it got fucked up and he probably nearly broke his ankle and he still kept it together and they still had a good match. I was very impressed by that. But overall, I haven't thought that this program was overly interesting. But I mean, it's just Christian putting Wardlow over harder each time.
To me, it's another one ready for it to move on, and I'm ready
for him to move on because
I'm ready for him to make that title feel important again.
Yeah, I agree. And at this point, I'm not exactly sure, unless Wardlow jumps into a feud with someone who's like a legit top level name. I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do because having Wardlow just squash people is, yes, that's enjoyable to watch, but I mean, you can only do that so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we had Chris Statlander over Anna Jay.
I forgot. I enjoyed Statlander's first 2 matches. I mean, she looks great to me.
I think she's awesome, and especially since anytime you see somebody coming back from really bad double injuries like that, I mean, you can't not cheer for them. But
the timing of this was perfect for her because she had to find a way to get out of the alien gimmick, and this coming back was the perfect way. And so,
she's like a serious, normal person who's just a good wrestler.
That would have been harder to portray. That's like the Jungle Boy thing when they want to go from Jungle Boy to Jack Perry. That's going to be harder than, I mean, that's hard to do.
Yes.
And so that one to go from an alien to be serious would not be easy. The time away, yes, hate it for her. I hate the injuries, but it made it easy to be like, reset, boom, here we go.
Yeah. And I mean, there wasn't really going to be a bigger spot for any of the women than to beat Jade Cargill. I mean, yeah, I guess you can question whether or not she should have been beaten yet or not, but I think it worked out pretty well. And I don't know if she's hurt or what. I know she was going to be taking time off, so.
Oh, we may get to see a new side of Jade.
No, I think we will because she's obviously still so new that I think she's going to get better and better and better. No doubt about it. I mean, she already is like, she's just got that aura about her, like she is a major star. And I mean,
but it gives a chance for her to recreate her stuff too, because now she's not this unbeatable. She's been beaten, so now it's going to be what Jade do we see?
Yeah, and I think inevitably she comes back. She keeps beating on people and is more of a baby face, but she can also make the argument that, hey, I've lost once technically, but it was in a secondary match that wasn't planned after I had just had a longer match. Not that
this is her way to get to the world title picture.
Yeah, which it's inevitable that she'll be there sooner than later. I don't know how long of time she's taking off, but yeah.
But it's a way for her to get involved in that. Statlander to help with still the TBS to help keep it going because Jade did defend it pretty regularly.
Yeah, pretty regularly.
But now Statlander can have a higher level of matches for that title because
he's obviously a better worker, but I mean, for now at least. But
so I think that was actually a win-win scenario for you can get 2 new characters, you get someone you want to move to the world title picture, and an easy way to do it. Let Statlander be the workhorse that we know she can be.
Yeah, and then getting her to a more serious character was, I mean, that was probably the biggest win out of it if she was going to continue to go up the ladder. So definitely good. And then we got our main event. So we got Ricky Starks and we got Jay White. Jay White ends up winning after interference from the Ass Boys. Did they make it look like, and I'm asking this because I genuinely do not remember, were they making it look like the Gun Club were actually going to be joining up with White and Juice in this Bullet Club Gold, or was that not how it was portrayed?
Not directly, because if you remember, wasn't it FTR that came to the aid of Ricky after a match? And
so I assume that might be what the connection is. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
But because the way they had them run out, they hit their move, then they went through the crowd, didn't hang around with
That's true. Good point. They did their damage and they got out. They weren't there to celebrate. They just wanted to hurt somebody and not care what the end result was.
Could I see them joining? 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they've already got their last name is Gunn, so I mean, they kind of have to be in the Bullet Club. But
I do think I'm actually a fan of what's going on with Bullet Club Gold, especially you put the Ass Boys in there. It feels more like the AEW Bullet Club. It's more Bullet Club than Bullet Club in Japan.
Well, in Japan, Bullet Club is split up into like 3 different groups or something, and it is so
the modern day
down.
NWO. It's the modern day NWO.
Yes, I mean it's literally been around for over 10 years as of 2 months ago. So yes, I think of, and I love David Finlay. I think he's great as, I guess, the leader of the Bullet Club or part of it in Japan. But I think Jay White as more of the leader of Bullet Club. I just know that he actually left New Japan to become an AEW performer. And the thing I think about is I really like Ricky Starks, and I was glad that he was getting more spotlight with the stuff with Jericho, even though that feud did seem to kind of maybe drag on a little too long. I thought he did gain from it. I thought he gained more when he actually had that title match with MJF that he lost earlier this year, but it was MJF's first title defense. But I think Jay White is a guy that could be one of your absolute top guys on the level of a Kenny Omega, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and they haven't really done a whole lot with him since he came in. And I like Juice a lot too, but I just don't see him at quite the level of Jay, because Jay is more of a unique heel where he actually tries to be a heel and he's not trying to be cool, for lack of a better term.
So I've seen that same argument online too, but if they would have, when Jay came in, if they would have immediately thrown him into main event, into everything, where does he go from there? So the way they've done it, it's made you still remember him, and it's been a more prolonged getting him. He just main evented this. He's going to be in the main event of the first ever Collision. He's getting promo. He's getting, so to me, it's really, what's the problem? It's, if you would have done this from the start, then it could have been another guy who came in to AEW and just fizzled off and faded out, because that's happened a lot.
Yeah,
And
no, that's right. Or they fizzled out and stayed under contract and just weren't seen for a long time. At least when, it seemed like a couple weeks in a row, Jay didn't do anything but have a couple of lines and beat the crap out of Ricky Starks. But, I mean, that did lead to this match. Jay won the match. I do think he's going to go higher up the card, as he should. So maybe it's more just that I'm not being patient enough and wanted him to.
To me, that's what it sounds like, because it's main event this week, main event of Collision.
I totally. For some reason, I keep thinking about Joe in that match. Besides the fact that Punk and FTR is the big deal, on the other side, I keep thinking like, man, Joe is in this match. That's really cool. I keep forgetting that Jay White's in that too. So yeah, if somehow there ended up being, if that spun off into a feud where Jay White was actually feuding with CM Punk upon his return to the company, then I would be the complete opposite of what I just said. So yeah, no, maybe you actually have a very good point there.
You can't give away everything all at once.
Fair enough. I'm impatient. I'll admit that. But I thought the match was, it was good. It wasn't great. I don't know. It wasn't. It actually seemed a little bit, and again, maybe this is just because I don't know, but I feel like usually the Dynamite main events seem a little more high stakes than this, but maybe it's just that this feud just hasn't done it for me because they haven't really done anything.
No, but...
And I don't understand why it started in the first place.
I still look at... You got to take chances with people. I like that they're putting different people in the main event like this.
No, I'm not saying that they weren't worthy of being in the main event, but for some reason, just this whole feud just...
It's going to get bigger, I think, because you're going to start seeing the growth of Bullet Club Gold. You're going to start seeing different things. You're going to see Ricky, you see him joking around sometimes and all this. Then I think you're going to hit a point where he's going to be dead-ass serious, Ricky Starks. And this is where he's came out of a shell a ton. He's grown. But this is where we're going to see the Ricky Starks, because he's going to get serious and be like, screw this. I'm tired of things happening.
Yeah. No, obviously he's an awesome promo and he's a very good wrestler. It's just, I guess, I feel like he is like right there on the cusp of like getting it, but he's not quite there yet. And I think the Jericho feud was designed to get him there, and it didn't completely work.
The thing about this, though, you always want to make new stars. You always want to do this. You have two huge stories going on in the company that nothing's going to trump. BCC and the Elite, and then you have Punk. So if you were trying to get somebody to say that cross that line, it's going to be dwarfed by these other two stories right now. So they won't get the attention that you would ideally want. They would not be the focal point or the talking point of us, people like us. And so the timing of when you do that has to be right. So that's what you're talking about.
No, you're right. So I guess that would mean that the third biggest storyline would be what? Cole and MJF getting started up? It would have to be, right?
Yep.
Depending on, and they have their eliminator match. I'm assuming either Adam Cole wins that or MJF does something to where he at least doesn't win or doesn't lose, and that leads into a title match. But no, I mean, I hope you're probably right about Jay, and you're probably right about Ricky too. Something about this feud, they can go off and do two different things, and it can be awesome. But for some reason, this feud, for whatever, it just hadn't done it for me. But
and I think you're gonna start seeing it dissipate because of Jay obviously going towards the Collision. You're gonna have that stuff. So at least it's kind of like you have like a hard line. You might see one more match where it's like a final big blow off deal, especially with Juice getting involved. I actually like the involvement. They're the heels. They're supposed to cheat. That's how they're supposed to win. And they did typical Bullet Club fashion stuff, which, again, to me is not ignoring history. This is what Bullet Club has done for 10 years.
No, I mean, literally, yeah. I do like heel Juice. I can't even really put my finger on why, because I liked him as a babyface too, but I like him better as a heel. But I don't have any good reason for why that is, other than the fact that I guess he's just doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was the end of the show. They pretty much ended it with Jay and Juice, which, I mean, I guess that's a pretty big spotlight if you say they're ending the show with them having just one standing in the ring. The Ass Boys had run off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they will have another match with FTR at some point.
I think we went off the air with Jay White standing on the turnbuckle.
Yeah, so then, okay. Do you say what are the chances of Jay White being in one of the top 3 matches on either the Wembley show, Forbidden Door, or All Out?
It won't be Forbidden Door because the two they've already announced is the top 2. It's not getting bigger than that.
No.
He won't be involved in the third one because it's going to either be a New Japan title or AEW title, some kind of match. It's not going to be that one. I don't care what they announced. It's not going to top those first 2 for Forbidden Door for me.
No, even if they tried to, that wouldn't be possible. Yeah.
All in is possible because of where it's at. It's overseas.
All right, well, this is our first try, so of course we had one more technical issue. We were just kind of rehashing some stuff about Jay White. Long and short of it, we're fans of Jay White. We want him to do good stuff. We were expecting that he'll probably have some kind of decent match at one of the big 3 shows coming up, but obviously on the very next one, nothing's going to top what's already on there. But we've already talked for longer than I kind of figured we would, even though I think it was a pretty good conversation. So I'm going to wrap it up. We're going to call it a night. We will be back next week.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it again. There's a pretty big Dynamite card next week. I think you probably looked it up while we were on here after I mentioned a couple of matches. It looks pretty good. It's one of the more stacked ones that they've had in a while, so I'm assuming...
Yeah, they have to. They got 3 shows to build.
Yeah, I mean, they're leading into a huge period where they're selling a shit ton of tickets, or they already have. It's not like they are selling. They pretty much have already sold the majority of them, so...
Oh, it's like 3. They got 4 shows if you count the debut of Collision.
That's what I was thinking just now, because I don't know the status of that show being sold out, but I don't think there'll be any seats left once the show starts. But
then Canada, they got to sell, which hasn't been sold well.
I mean, it's a huge summer. I mean, we got all these shows, plus we've got the Owen Hart Cup, and it's finishing up at the Calgary Saddle Dome. I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't even know who's going to be in it or how that's going to work out, but there's no way that's not going to be awesome. So, I mean, between June, July, August, September, I mean, you can make the argument that this is going to be like the 4 most important, the most important season of AEW's history, probably maybe right ahead of when Punk debuted the first time, and then they had Danielson and Cole debut at All Out, and they had that huge momentum at that point. Is this? I wouldn't say their popularity is at that level currently, but I think if these shows are home runs, that they very well could be.
And then while this is
Besides the
going
fact that they're
on,
making a huge amount of money.
well, then while this is going on, the contracts of the Bucks and Omega. So it's a huge period for them.
Yeah, and I'll be very sad if they do not re-sign. I don't know. That would hurt.
So
I don't see that not happening, but yeah.
But you add that in there to all this other, it's a
huge time period.
Monstrous season for them.
I mean, Punk's coming back, huge shows. I feel like Danielson's like higher up the card right now than he's pretty much been the whole time. I mean, yeah.
Mox is going to take a break and not have to be focal, but just go kill everybody.
And I hope he gets to go fucking fishing. That's all I know. I hope he got to do his vacation at some point, because the man continued to come back and do awesome stuff for our enjoyment and bleed.
And they know if it's ever needed, they know who to call. They know who the backbone of that company is.
Yeah, and that's not going to change, even if Punk comes back and it absolutely blows it out of the water.
No.
But so that's going to wrap it up. We will be back next week. Again, this is our first episode. If you randomly came across this and you actually watched for more than a couple of seconds, I hope that you didn't hate what you were watching, and that if you enjoyed it, you can actually click the like button. And if you really enjoyed it, you can click the subscribe button. Because someone told me if you're going to make a YouTube channel, it's mandatory that you say, mash that subscribe button, because I guess that's how people actually build up their channel. So we'll see what happens. But we will talk to you later, and
see y'all next week.
Next week. Yeah, take it easy.